You're listening to episode 55 of Present Moment. Welcome to Present Moment, Mindfulness, Practice, and Science. I'm Ted Meissner. Present Moment is a podcast with interviews, conversations, and roundtable discussions. We speak with mindfulness researchers about their newest findings published in peer-reviewed science journals, teachers about their understanding and methods as they work with students of mindfulness, authors about their books and interests, and we also speak with everyday practitioners. The website presentmomentmindfulness.com has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Janet Slom joins us to speak about mindfulness and art. When we think of mindfulness, we may think of a particular formal practice of meditation. And that's certainly a part of what we do, helping to open awareness to what's happening in the present moment. But what about the rest of our waking hours? How does the informal practice of mindfulness appear in your life? Though we may not be non-judgmentally aware all the time, there may be certain activities which invite that open attentiveness, including art. Janet Slom grew up in South Africa during apartheid on a vast flower farm, and so, from the very beginning, she was surrounded by beauty as well as a keen awareness of humanity's immense suffering and longing. Her father created Shambhala as a learning center for Eastern philosophy, inspired by the legendary Himalayan kingdom and Tibetan belief that a harmonious and meaningful life are possible through gentleness, courage, self-knowledge, and freedom. Janet is a painter, an installation and performance artist. She creates powerful images that reverberate with the rhythms of nature and life, exploring the dance of opposing forces. Her solo and group exhibitions have taken place at venues including the United Nations, Lincoln Center, the Adelson Gallery, Cone Peterson Fox Gallery, Everard Reed Gallery, and Frank Page's Gallery. Her paintings are in collections internationally, including the South Africa Parliament. She studied at the University of Witwatersrand and earned her Master of Fine Arts from the Massachusetts College of Art. Janet has taught extensively and is currently on the faculty of Lehigh University's Iacocca Institute. She lives in Hollywood, Florida and Weston, Connecticut, and maintains studios in Fort Lauderdale, Florida and Bridgeport, Connecticut. Our guest today is Janet Slom. Janet, welcome to the podcast. So wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Ted. I'm really happy to be here.
It's just wonderful to be able to reconnect with you again. And as we were speaking before this recording started, how we met at a teacher training at the Center for Mindfulness. And I had the great joy of being partnered with you for what would be a very challenging exercise. And I want to again extend my appreciation, my thanks, gratitude for working with you on that. Thank you again so much for your open-heartedness during that.
I remember that clearly, and it was really a very moving experience, and I thank you too.
So let's begin. Janet, I'm wondering if you could just take some time and tell us about your background, because there's some rich content there that I'd like the listeners to have a chance to hear.
Sure. I was born in South Africa on the farm Shambhala. And it was a beautiful flower farm where we farmed carnations and gladioli. And my father also created a center where people were welcome to come, and every Tuesday night we would have a circle where we would sit and have inspired thought and really speak about the meaning of life. And this was a very important part of my upbringing, and it stayed with me from the very beginning, in that each day we would sit on the veranda together, and even from 4 years old, my father would say, we're going to close our eyes now, and we're going to listen to the rustling of the leaves. And so we would close our eyes and listen to the rustling of the leaves for like 15, 20 minutes. And then we'd open our eyes, and then he would direct me to listen to the sounds of the birds. And in front of the veranda, we had 5 really beautiful, hundreds of year old plane trees. And so the birds really were very joyous, and their song was loud and clear. And we would listen to the birds for a couple of moments, until maybe 15 minutes or so. And so without even realizing, I was introduced to a practice very, very young. And I have been practicing ever since, and it has really been incredibly, incredibly helpful in more ways than I could even express, especially growing up in a country where there was apartheid and there was a lot of things that couldn't be spoken. So to be with those feelings and to be with, some of that difficulty in a way that I felt very held, in a spaciousness of knowing that I could come to my breath, knowing that I could come to sensations in my body, and just knowing that there was a place of refuge was very helpful. And I just am so grateful for having this practice, this mindfulness practice throughout my life.
And it sounds like you had an environment of a refuge at Shambhala, but also your inner refuge was nurtured by your father, and that grew. That wasn't something that, as some people growing up may have had a practice or a parent or a relative that practiced and then they sort of moved away from it. That's something that took root in your heart and continued to grow, it sounds like.
Yes, very, very much. And in listening to my body and in listening to the still small voice inside, I found the place of creative expression that became a very important part of my practice as well. So art from a very young age was something that I gravitated towards, and always playing with different materials and crayons, and just the process was so inspiring, not necessarily creating anything specific, but out of the experience of meditation and out of the experience of playing with my friends and being on the farm with the different animals and everything, an extension of that became this way of expressing with whether it be charcoal or watercolor or inks. There was always a place that was open and ready for a brush stroke or a little bit of a drawing. And so that was very much part of what was very meaningful for me growing up.
So it sounds like the environment in which you grew up influenced your art. Was there a way in which that manifests in the art that you created? It wasn't a particularly naturalistic style or a particular venue. It was very expressive and creative.
Yes, definitely. The idea of listening and marking from an inspired and deep inner place was what I was interested from a very, very young age. And the idea of copying nature or trying to draw something technically was never something that I was interested in or that I was really wanting to explore or even good at. So the invitation to express from a very free and genuine and heartfelt place was what I really enjoyed. And that's where the journey of this began, and it still continues to this as being a very integral part of my practice of mindfulness.
Let's explore that a little bit. Do you see an intersection between art and mindfulness, and what's that like for you?
I do, Ted, I really do. I feel that the practice through creative expression is expanded, and I have to say that my connecting with the center in the very early 2000s was one of the most meaningful and profound and important moments of really connecting with John and Saki and Florence and Melissa and all my friends who I met with the different stages that we went through. So the idea of sitting together and moving together, walking together, doing yoga and the body scan became just like a new way of practicing, and yet not a new way. It was reaffirming what I was used to from a very, very young age, but with a different inspired outlook. And so the practice, I felt, was a very beautiful part of creative expression, and it all fit together in a very natural and very easy way. So I feel that each practice, whether it be sitting, whether it be walking, whether it be the body scan, sensations, sounds, it all fits together in a very wholesome and expansive and beautiful way. And then the idea of really embodying another way of practicing through the creative expression is also a very free and wonderful extension of that. So it's a very fortunate thing to have this all come together and just be so helpful in so many facets of relating to life in a very open and connected and curious and childlike way.
Yeah, it sounds more like not so much an intersection between art and mindfulness, but that there is really no separation, that they are intertwined and part of this same ongoing experience, this ongoing unfolding, this ongoing energizing of living.
Exactly. And the whole thing is the way we can practice and then bring the practice into life. It's really about creating our lives as art, breath by breath, noticing, when there are darker moments, when there are difficulties, and all of that really relates to creating our lives in a very open and spontaneous and genuine and moment-to-moment way, which is exactly what happens when there is art created out of that root, that essence, not about anything skillful as far as learning any kind of technique in art, but really honoring and knowing that our practice comes from the deepest place of our being, and that each and every one of us is absolutely perfect the way we are, and we are expert about the way we relate to lives through our beingness rather than the doingness, and rather than, what society has set up, the rules and regulations of how we should relate, and the shoulds and the coulds and the woulds. And it's all so far away from that it really is very inspiring and empowering and affirming for each and every being to know that our journeys are all unique, and our journeys are all our journeys, and we are the expert of our experience rather than looking for the answers outside of our actual being and our actual experience within the body that we were created in. It makes sense, but I'm trying to say that the felt sense, experiential sense, the genuine experience of our lives is where we can create our lives as our art.
You are the art of your life.
Yes, yes.
So let's talk for just a few moments. You mentioned the Center for Mindfulness and connections there in various ways of being with the community there. And I know that you've done some art pieces for the center. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about them and what inspired them. What are they about?
That's a really good question. And the body of work that is installed in the center right now, the title of that body of work is Heaven on Earth. And heaven on earth is this moment right now, with nowhere to go, nothing to do, no pushing, no striving, really being completely present with each stroke without knowing what the outcome and what the product is. And neither is that our business. So the work is and comes out of my mindful practice, never knowing what the piece is going to finish up as, what the image is going to be, but just allowing the process to take me on a journey, stroke by stroke and breath by breath, embodying the not knowing and embodying the feeling of being lost sometimes, and then trusting that I can always come back to this breath in this moment. So the opportunity to show this work and have this work be seen and inviting the viewer to be a part of the process, because the making is one part, but then inviting the viewer to be in their heaven on earth as they are viewing, as they are taking in the work. And to me, that is a very open and interconnected place to meet another in this moment of mindfulness. So the making and the viewing and the experiencing is all integral to what the work is about.
And I've seen those before. I've been to the center a few times on visits, and there is a subtle but profound beauty and energy. And the term that I would use to describe what they look like is expression. I don't know quite how to articulate it in a more meaningful fashion than that, but to simply state that you need to experience these to understand and have your own way of relating to them.
Yes, and I think the way you've described how you experience them, having to actually be present with the work, is a very important part, because it is about the experience. It's about the experience of being in that moment of connecting with the work, maybe not connecting with the work, but really seeing if there is something that is evoked in the viewer in our interconnectedness. I feel that's a really important part. It's not about recognizing any particular image, or it's not about any kind of clever idea, but it is about the marking of expressing the moment. And if that comes across, then the work is speaking. And it just feels like to share that is a wonderful experience for having created it in the practice of being mindful and being open to whatever is showing up in that moment. Like if it's a fear, an anxiety, sometimes that shows up and that's fine. And then having the viewer tell me that they are feeling or seeing or relating to whatever that vulnerability is. And that to me is a very wonderful way to connect with each other in this world of mindfulness.
Janet, what continues to inspire you in art and in your meditative practice?
The idea and the root of my upbringing, as I mentioned, the farm's name, and it was named after Shambhala, the ancient Tibetan philosophy of Chogyam Trungpa, and the idea of common human goodness in mankind, that there is a kindness and there is an interconnectedness and there is this incredible ocean that we all swim in, which is the ocean of loving kindness, the ocean of connectedness, the ocean of life. And that to me inspires my work each and every day as I practice. I'm grateful to my teachers. I'm grateful to Trungpa, to John, to Saki, to all of my teachers, to Melissa, to Florence, to Lynn. I just did another course with Lynn, and all the inspired beings, Sharon Salzberg, and gosh, so many teachers that have changed and really transformed my life. And I feel so fortunate to have this lineage of inspired beings who are so incredibly open-hearted and generous in sharing the work and walking the path of mindfulness for all of us. It's like, how fortunate are we to have this opportunity to walk in this way of knowing that we are connected.
So, Janet, you also have something that you've been working on as perhaps a work of a lifetime. And I'm wondering if you could say a little bit about the program that you yourself are working on.
So, out of my experience and out of the process that has truly saved my life, from mindfulness practice to the creative inspired act, I have been teaching this for over 35 years to children in different communities and also in universities and in corporations and also privately. And I feel that there have been a lot of inquiries about wanting me to share this work. So out of this and really wanting to share the work more openly and more expansively in the world, I'm writing the curriculum for mindfulness-based self-expression. And so everything that has come to help me in this process of living mindfully and inspired creatively. I am writing a curriculum right now, and I have shared it with some teachers, and the teachers have in turn shared it with hundreds of students. So I feel that the work is being done in the world by teachers who really love this work. And so it's beginning, and I'm very excited and very happy to have this work be reaching a wider audience. And I continue to write the curriculum, and it should be formally out in a couple of months.
Wonderful. I'm very eager to see that and to learn more. And for those who are listening, our guest today, Janet Slom, you can find out more about her work on her website, which is linked on the episode page for this episode. And that address is www.janetslom, Janet, JANETSLOM.com. Janet, thank you so much for being here. So wonderful to hear your voice again.
Thank you so much, Ted. I've really enjoyed our sharing.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to hear more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the website at presentmomentmindfulness.com. You'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. You can comment on the episode page and find show notes and other helpful resources for your mindfulness practice. The shakuhachi music heard on Present Moment is used by permission and through the generosity of musician Rodrigo Rodriguez. His website is linked on the Present Moment website on the About Podcast Music page. Sound editing, mixing, and mastering provided by the generosity of Anthony Dominello of StructureFromSound.com. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on Present Moment.